everyone, my name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today I'd like to talk about love in BDSM relationships. Now, I know there has to be a lot of misconceptions out there about love in BDSM because I get so many questions about it. I've had people ask me everything from, is love taboo in BDSM, all the way over to, do I have to love my dominant in order to have a healthy BDSM relationship? So what I'd like to do today is examine those questions, figure out what the truth is of what the BDSM community thinks about love and the ways that people love in BDSM, if they do at all, and try and figure out maybe why we have some of these ideas in the first place. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing I'd like to discuss is media representation of love in BDSM. And in particular, I'd like to look at two different big representations I see really commonly come out of media ideas about what BDSM is. The first one comes from pornography, and that is the Ice Queen. The dominatrix who is so far removed from her submissive that she is untouchable. She is royal, a goddess, magical, seen as completely far away and separate from any kind of emotional connection with the submissive. There is no possible way that the submissive and the dominant could love each other in this scenario because of the huge, vast difference that lies between the two. It's almost like there's sort of a chasm that exists between them, or that the dominant doesn't possibly consider that the submissive is human. They are just on completely different levels of the spectrum, and love is just not something that is even possible in these types of pornographic scenarios. This is not to say that all pornography is like this, but this is probably the biggest trope that I see pop up and hear about in pornography that involves BDSM, and particularly ones that are focused for male submissives to consume. And I think there's a reason why this representation exists. One, having the dominant partner be cold and distant is a really quick way in a form of media that doesn't have a lot of time to build up narrative and plot to establish that there is a high level of power exchange. It really quickly emphasizes exactly how different the two people are in the scenario. Again, it's a really quick way of playing up the power exchange. It's also something that people who consume this media enjoy. Pornography is a safe way to explore a lot of ideas and concepts that in the real-life BDSM community are simply not possible. It takes the fantasy and the role play to a level that you couldn't necessarily achieve in your everyday real-life BDSM scene. Now, on the other hand, you have erotica that is primarily catered towards middle-aged, usually cisgendered, usually heterosexual women. This is like the paperback romance novel of the BDSM erotic world. Emphasis on the romance. Oftentimes, BDSM is portrayed as an obstacle in these relationships. It's something that the main character has to eventually overcome. It's a barrier to emotional intimacy. The dominant partner is emotionally broken, inept, they were abused, they're mentally ill. There's some reason why they are dominant, some reason why they are sadistic, and only if the submissive main character could show them how to love could they learn how to be a whole person. BDSM can be the focus of this type of media, but typically it's eventually something that's supposed to be weaned off of. It's a means to an end. It's something that the submissive, again, eventually has to break through and show the dominant partner that they no longer need. BDSM is a way for people to create a substitute for love, to avoid emotional intimacy when they're not capable of it. This is, again, not to say that all media that is erotica that involves BDSM is this way, but this is the giant one that has been represented through works like 50 Shades of Grey and has sort of become the biggest way that people think and talk about BDSM relationships when it comes to media that's specifically tailored towards cisgender women. And if you do want to find better BDSM content that does show more diversity, the best way you can do that is through looking for independent and or niche creators, oftentimes people who are in BDSM themselves, who create media around it based on their own experiences. However, if you're somebody who is just randomly coming across this on the internet, or if you are first getting started in BDSM, if you're just curious about it, you're not really going to know where or how to look for that kind of media, and so oftentimes by the time somebody gets to the point where they're looking for that sort of material, they've already absorbed possibly years worth of stereotypes from the erotica and pornography, the media, the movies, the cassettes that they have that already talk about how the kink world is. Is there any truth behind these stereotypes? Are dominant men emotionally stunted and need to be fixed in order to love? Are dominant women cold and manipulative and untouchable? Well, I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but the truth is that probably not. This is not to say that there's nobody in the BDSM world who has relationships that look like those that are shown in media, because surely there must be, but it's by no means the rule. In fact, I would consider it the exception. BDSM is not the only place where broken people go in order to have relationships that allow them to continue their destructive behavior patterns. BDSM is a place that can be filled with love. BDSM is a place that can be filled with empathy and kindness and friendship. BDSM is a really, really diverse place. It's kind of like going to your local grocery store. Everybody needs food. You're going to see all kinds of people at the grocery store. People who are tall and skinny, pretty, people who are young and old, people with all different kinds of diets and preferences and body types and all sorts of wonderful different things. And in BDSM, that also means that we have a diversity of the ways that we want to engage in BDSM. We have diversity in the amount or the type of love that we have, if we have any love at all. And love is not in conflict with BDSM. BDSM can exist without love, and it can exist with love, both in healthy ways. What's important in BDSM and important in the BDSM community is that it's done with consent and negotiation in mind. If you want a BDSM relationship that, for example, is purely professional, only involves just the most basic kind of human kindness that you would need in order to have an ethical BDSM scenario happen, you can do that. No strings attached, no love, no other feelings or emotions, and that's perfectly valid and fine. You can also be somebody who needs to have a romantic relationship in order to feel comfortable doing BDSM, and that's totally fine as well. I have known and met people all across this spectrum, people who involve love in different ways. And in fact, there's no hard and fast rule for this. You may start out in BDSM having relationships of one style and move on to another. BDSM is also something that can exist with romantic love, but also with other types of love as well. BDSM for a lot of people is kind of just like a weird hobby, and oftentimes you'll meet people who engage in it with their friends, close acquaintances, people they met that night at a dungeon. Again, it can really, really vary between intense romantic love and no strings attached. The kind of love that you might see exhibited could be like the love for a friend. It could be based on sensual attraction. It could be based on aesthetic desires, such as what you might find when somebody does an artistic wax play or a body painting scene. It could be about simply just having a crazy, weird experience with a friend who happens to have a background in theater and is going to be able to put on a really good roleplay performance. It is just so crazy and wild and wonderful that we're able to do so many different kinds of things in BDSM and really engage in creativity and self-expression and really just being honest with who we are. At the end of the day, no matter what form BDSM takes, be it loving, be it not involving love at all, it is something that is about having a preference for a specific type of relationship or having specific activities that you enjoy doing. And that's really all there is to it. It doesn't need to be any more or any less complicated than that. If you want to be in a loving BDSM relationship, if you want romance-oriented BDSM, if you are submissive and you want a partner who will do this for you, you absolutely completely can. If you are a dominant who wants to shower your submissive in affection and kisses after every single scene, you can absolutely do that too. If you want BDSM to be something that you keep completely separate from your romantic or sexual life, that is also totally, totally possible. So really what I want to just emphasize in today's video is that it is up to you. It is up to the choices that you make. BDSM has room for so many different styles of relationships. Polyamorous, monogamous, no strings attached, no relationships at all, relationship anarchy, people who are bisexual, heterosexual, homosexual, pansexual, people of all different gender identities and expressions and ways of loving and ways that they desire to give and receive love. And in fact, BDSM can be a way of expressing love. I really also want to emphasize that BDSM is not in conflict with love. BDSM is not necessarily something that replaces love. BDSM can be a mechanism through which you express love. There's a very often referenced book. It's called The 5 Love Languages, and it goes over how people express love to their partners. Things like giving gifts, words of affirmation, quality time. And I would argue in some cases that BDSM can be both quality time and physical affection. You have to remember that, as strange as it would seem maybe from the outside, if you're not part of BDSM yourself, having the emotional rush of a scene, having the physical pain and pleasure of something like a hot candy can be the same as having a BDSM scene that's focused on pain. It's about exploring the diversity of human experience, and exploring that with a partner can be a way to bond, a way to express intimacy and love and trust. And trust is really the basis for a lot of love feelings that we have towards people. A lot of times, having a lot of deep bonding, a lot of trust given to a partner, and having that trust be accepted and respected can absolutely be a way of having love in a relationship and developing love. And I know there are people out there, such as Master Arcane, who really do teach and preach a form of BDSM known as romantic BDSM. If you want to learn more about this particular subject, I do recommend you check out his content as well as the interview we did a couple months back. So links down below if you want to check that out. But that is a really great way of seeing exactly how love can be expressed through BDSM. It's simply another way of interacting through the world. If you really do genuinely enjoy BDSM experiences, if you get some sort of pleasure out of having your partner, say, degrade you, having somebody call you a degrading name can feel just as loving as for a vanilla couple, I don't know, getting a card or a bunch of flowers. Getting a pair of handcuffs can be as romantic as getting a nice piece of jewelry. Getting a gag can be as nice as wearing a nice red lipstick on a date. I don't know, there's plenty of analogies like that I could make, but really, again, BDSM is not a substitute for love. It can be something that supplements love, and it can also exist in healthy ways without love being present. Just remember that this is really all up to you, your own choices and preferences, and the negotiations and consent that you have with the partners and the people that you want to play with. I really encourage you to find and develop what your own personal BDSM style is. The best way to be able to find people to do BDSM with and have successful scenes is have a really clear idea up front about what you're looking for and what you're not. And part of that is knowing what role you'd like love to play in your relationships. So feel free to explore it and think about it a little bit more. If you guys have any comments or questions for me, please let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts on this subject, so comment down below. If you also have any follow-up questions, leave those down there as well. If you guys like this video and you want to see more from me, I make videos twice a week about all sorts of BDSM related subjects, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you really like this video and you'd like to support my channel, please check out my Patreon. That is how I'm able to fund this channel. That is what allows me to give you guys a bunch of exclusive perks and rewards, such as extra videos, photo shoots, and so on. So do check that out if you haven't already. If you do already support me, thank you so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you guys next time, have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.